about Father Titus, who lived 100 years ago. I found it so inspiring in a sense. I learned a lot from your wisdom.
Thank you.
About the compassion, about the joy of this the living saint. I just, along the line, I don't know whether it's a question or not. I just want to, this just reminded me something about the Vatican II. Some recent past, they talk about the laymen, the lay Catholics collaboration. And according to your experience, how can we, I noticed that, there's a point mentioned, elaborated by you, we have to read the time. It's not about 96, it's about now. How can we live out, our belief, right? Our saintship.
Yeah.
And according to your experience, can you share, how can we, as a lay Catholic, how can we live out, or how can we work with the priest to do evangelical work? I find that there are, quite a lot of lost sheep in Hong Kong and other places. I find it's very, challenging. To me, sometimes, it might be disturbing, but after listening to you, I find still there's so much hope.
Thank you. That's yeah.
Thanks a lot for the introduction.
So, as I said at the beginning, some people may complain about offering a friar as a model for lay people, because, but as I said, it's not a model to imitate, because probably you have family and you have children and you have a work and so on, but it's an inspirational, the attitudes, how to translate the attitudes, and that's very important. In the past, there were canonizations and beatifications of lay people, but even if it sounds funny, they were beatified because they didn't live like lay people, For instance, couples, they were beatified because they didn't live like a couple, so good. So this is changing, not just after Vatican II, even before, to rediscover the common vocation of every Christian and so on. But nevertheless, it's still a challenge, how to, Pope Francis is very critical with clericalism. He says, this is opinable, it's not, we don't have to agree with this, but he says that there is still in the church a lot of clericalism, perhaps a little bit more, how could I say, more gentle than in the past, but there is still, we don't really rely on our lay people, and perhaps it's truth. It depends very much on where, conditions, some parishes, but perhaps it's in some places it's true, that we have parish council, but the parish council main mission is to say yes, Father. They call them yes, Father councils, So I think we are learning together. I'm not pessimistic, I'm not too critical, but I think we are learning together. We clerics, we have to learn to listen, not just to hear, but to listen what the lay people are saying. This is not a trade union war, it's not getting power, lay people and clerics, it's about to work together. And there is a very important theological base for this. I give you an example. After the Second Vatican Council, some journalists made an interview to Cardinal Suenens, who was one of the main cardinals in the council, and they said to him, Cardinal, what is the main teaching of Second Vatican Council? What is the main teaching? And they were expecting ecumenism, modern world, things like that, And he said the rediscovery of baptism. Well, what a strange answer, rediscovery of baptism. Because if we discover our common vocation as baptized, that we are all members of the community, that the community is made for all of us. Nobody is indispensable, but everybody is necessary, you know. If we are aware of the dignity of every Christian, you know, and the mission of every Christian, baptized, so you see this is a new approach to the theology of our community. So lay person is not a passive person, and thank God there are many lay people very active according to their condition, because some of them have work and they have no time, or they have no, but there are great initiatives coming from the lay people, you know, and we have to be wise and humble enough to enjoy, you know, those new possibilities. But it's something, I think it takes time. We are thinking about that. In Carmel, the idea of Carmelite family is already much spread. My predecessors, I'm remembering Father John Malley from the United States, who was very enthusiastic about the Carmelite family, not only the Carmelite order, but the Carmelite family, nuns, sisters, lay Carmelites, you know, are very important, lay Carmelites, to build our family. Each one can offer something different, you know, to make the whole symphony. I like this example of the symphony, you know, the violins, the piano, and all of them are important, you know. The music, the final music is the symphony, you know. So we are in that process, you know, of learning how to do that, how to work together. Sometimes I am afraid that we put that in too political or too sociological terms, you know, like because this is a discussion in political parties, or this is different. This is much deeper, and much. It's not that we are giving power to the lay people. Also, that is that a lay person, a lay Christian, is a baptized, is prophet, priest, and king, you know. So to be aware of the dignity of every Christian, you know. So we have to keep on reflecting on that. But I am optimistic, like Titus. Thank you.
Next, please. Yeah.
Okay. So I may not be wording this question correctly, so I'm sorry if I don't. But you were talking about Titus, how his like how he viewed tradition and modernity. Especially because he loved the traditions of the Carmelite order, but he was also a man of his time. And you were talking about how you can't like just leave everything because you're still part of the time that you're in, which reminded me of like a ladder, like in the Divine Comedy. I think Dante is talking about how a monk is supposed to climb the ladder up to God in contemplation, but then he has to go back down. And so I wanted to ask, when it comes to like more cloistered or semi-cloistered orders, like the Benedictines, for example, because I like the Benedictine order, and I was wondering, it's not a complete abandonment of society, because a lot of like monasteries and abbeys, I know, like help the people around it or are involved in some way, and also because you're not like completely individual, because you're part of a community, and that's really important. But there's still this sense of leaving the world and becoming separate from it. And I know that, like, with the Benedictines, for example, a big part of what they do is they pray. They pray for the pearl. But there's still this sense of not being involved in it as much. And so I think that's beautiful, but is that enough? Because when it's compared to, like, the more, like, talked about religious orders, like the Missionaries of Charity, it seems almost a little bit selfish.
The question is very well formulated. So this balance, I don't like the word balance, because balance seems like diplomatic, you know, political balance. I used to say healthy tension, it's a healthy tension. And the two extremes of that tension are to retire from the world, to hide ourselves, to live apart, or in the other side, to be in the world. We have to. Some religious orders and congregation underline to be apart for prayer, but the Benedictines say, oh no, we have in our heart and in our prayer, we have the problems of the world, we are not insensitive. And that's why their process of formation is very careful and very strict about people who are fleeing. People, for instance, I had a girlfriend and she left me. Oh, I become Benedictine, I don't want to know everything. So they make a very strong discernment. No, you don't come here to flee from the world. So they underline that dimension, but they don't forget that they are not fleeing from the world. Actually, in the first centuries of the monachism, they went to the desert, and they went to the desert not to flee. They went there because in the desert were the devils, the demons. So they were there. They went there to fight against So, and in the other extreme, let us put the Jesuits. In their charism, to be in the world, to be in culture, to be in, So this, they have to be careful not to be selfish, not to be, and these have to be careful not to be too worldly, too mundane. Pope Francis, who is a Jesuit, speaks very often about mundanity. Don't be mundane, don't be. So you see, even within the church, sometimes some charisms underline an aspect and the other one, but in both cases we cannot forget the other. But hopefully they are not selfish, and hopefully they don't solve in the world, because perhaps the other extreme, we can be so in our time that at the end we are not significant, so you don't see where is the religious life, you live like another person, so that would be the balance I speak. And Titus did it in his own person, very well,